core, I'm going to cut it to a taper. I'm going to take my scissors. You do have to kind of saw at it because it's made out of paper. But I'm going to cut at a pretty steep angle. You gotta really saw in there, especially if your scissors are dull. It'll take a little while. So I only have to do this at one end right now, and I want to get it to a point. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, this is good. So I'm going to start with my yarn. I have a piece of yarn that is like 2 wingspan length. That is too short. You will run out like I did. Do 3 or 4 just at this beginning part. You can work with shorter lengths later. At the beginning, it's important that you have a very long piece of yarn. I'm going to start by laying it down along the core. This is about 3 inches from that end of the taper. So I lay it down. I am right-handed, so my right hand is my dominant hand. I'm using my non-dominant hand to pinch down the yarn. I like to wrap towards myself, so I'm going to pick up this yarn with my dominant hand, and I'm going to go around and over, and I'm trapping that yarn underneath. So around over, I'm trapping that end of the yarn inside of my wrapping. I'm going to do nice even wraps that are right next to each other. I'm not leaving any spaces in the core. You will also notice that my end of the yarn doesn't go past the taper. I ended it before. Not a huge deal either way, but it makes it a little bit easier if you have the end of the yarn before the end of the taper. You can also just trim it right here. Just use scissors. So I am wrapping toward the taper, right? I started here, I'm wrapping toward the taper. So check right now, are you wrapping toward the taper? If you are not, you will have to start over. I keep going. I can go back and unwrap. Okay. So at this point, I am about 1/2 inch from the end of the taper. I have to bend this into a teardrop shaped loop. Now this is the thick core, so it's a little bit of a hard bend. Okay. So I went a little too far. What's going to happen is I have my teardrop shaped loop. I'm going to wrap around this part of the core and the loop, and that's what's going to tie this down. Now I wrapped a little too far. I want to make sure I have enough tying down of the loop. So I'm going to go maybe to a little bit back here. Okay. So I'm going to bend it. I have a pretty long loop, right? If you do it too short, it's going to fall out. So I'm going to make a nice long loop. And I'm going to start to wrap around, right? I'm going over, around both sides of the loop. So there's a little hole right here. That's okay, we're going to use that hole. You can cover it with yarn if you'd like. You don't have to if you don't want to. So I've run out of yarn. I'm going to add a new piece and then come back. So if you're doing your final basket, you definitely want to take more care to make sure that your white core isn't showing through. So at this point, I'm wrapping the 2 sides of the loop. Okay, oh, there you go, sliding out. So you want to make sure I can wrap back a little bit. That means I have to wrap tighter to make sure that everything is in place. Okay, so this might have happened to you. It's okay, just go back and wrap tighter. Okay, and there you go. Now I have my teardrop shaped loop. My end of the yarn is secured inside and I'm ready to start wrapping around the loop.